finish up the Classical Guitar Method by Mel Bay. This is volume 1. Starting on page 39, they introduce the G major scale. On this page, and it starts with a daily drill of the scale. So it's going to sound something like this. I'm going to skip the repeat there. Then on this same page is The Gauchos by Carcassi. It says Carcassi Bay, so I guess it's an arrangement of a Carcassi piece by Mel Bay. So moving on. Accompaniment styles in G major. So he did this earlier in C major, but now he's doing it in G. So we have the G chord. That's the root. Primary chords are C and D7. So we have G, C, and D7. You can use other chords in G major, but this is just for the purpose of teaching some of the right hand techniques that you can use to accompany singers, that kind of thing, or accompany yourself if you're a singer. And so this is going to be G, C, D7, and back to G usually. So we got 4/4 time. And an alternating bass. 3/4 time. There was a first and second ending, I just skipped it. So 2/4 time. And then another scale study, this time, it's kind of cool. There's these things that we talk about in music all the time called modes. So mode is when you, like if you have a G major scale, but you start on a different note. For example, if you play A, starting on A, but you're playing in G major, sound like it just gives it a different feel. So what Mel Bay did in this book is he did the scale, but he started, each sequence is going to start on a different note. So it's like he's showing you modes without really calling them modes. So for example, we have G, then A, B, C, D, scale study. Great practice. Again, I like to use my thumb on the bass string. And I usually switch to alternating on the treble strings. You can do it however you like, but that's just, I find it to be more efficient when I'm moving around the strings that way. So anyway, here is a serenade. There again, repeat dots I'm skipping sometimes, just moving through the book. The next one is an Austrian hymn by Franz Joseph Haydn, again arranged by Mel Bay. He does show some exercises in the beginning, good things to probably get used to doing, fingering, like almost like a counterpoint little exercise. These are just kind of good practice, I guess, to prepare you for this piece. And then the hymn. So I'm not gonna really pre-read it carefully like I normally would if I was learning something, but I'm going to skim it so just again using my eyes to prepare, trying to hear what the rhythms are going to sound like. This is a pretty complex one, so there's some challenging, we're getting towards the end of the book, so there's some challenging pieces here. So just kind of skimming through. That's Princess. Be right back. My alarm system. Okay. Anyway, Austrian hymn. Again, unfiltered, unedited. Next we have a piece by Mazas. This is The Little Prince. Again, just going to kind of skim through, get an idea, Again, this is a lot of counterpoint. Can get a little tricky when you're trying to play two lines at once like this. So it's good to think it through, make a plan. You can play the 5 game with any tricky bits that you might run into if you're learning these pieces. Like, for example, here, moving up into the higher positions on the guitar can be a bit challenging sometimes. And again, playing like 2 scales at once. But I don't want to, like, the reason why I do this is I don't want to use my ear necessarily, because using your ear can be a good thing, but sometimes it can interfere with continuity of a piece. At least in my experience, when I'm trying to read something, if I don't like the way something sounds, I might try to stop and fix it, and then I just lose the rhythm that way. So I'm trying to think it through. You can see I'm using my left hand here so that I have an idea what my left hand's going to do before I incorporate any actual sounds with the right hand, because that's the way the guitar works. So this is Andante, The Little Prince. And then, In the Evening by the Moonlight. Yeah, I'm going to kind of think it through. These are starting to get more challenging. Even though it's still in first position, adding that counterpoint sometimes can definitely make it more difficult. Which is why this book to me is more interesting than the modern guitar method book, which I learned from, but I kind of like this one better because it's more interesting and it sounds fuller when you're playing these counterpoint kind of things and fuller sounding chords. Like the problem with if you're just playing melody on guitar, as much fun as that is to do, there's no context there unless you add in bass notes, and then as soon as you do that, like if you have 2 guitars and one's playing chords and the other's playing melody, it's a lot more interesting. But this book, you can do just have 1 guitar, and it's very entertaining to just play these pieces by yourself. So here is In the Evening by the Moonlight. it's the harmony that I was talking about at the end. You could hear it. So this note's ringing out. That's the G, the root, and then you have that kind of bass line, and it all rings together into a chord. I think that kind of stuff is kind of cool. Okay, next page, the E minor, which is relative to G major. So now we're going to have the same notes except for, now we have two E minor scales, the harmonic minor and the melodic minor. Natural minor would just be the same exact notes as, like I was talking about the modes before. So when I'm playing a mode, E minor and E natural minor would be the sixth mode of the G major scale. Here we're playing those modes, but now there's harmonic and melodic. So in the harmonic I'm adding D sharp, and then in melodic on the ascending scale I'm going to add C sharp and D sharp, and then on the way back down they go back to natural notes, except for the F sharp, which is in the key signature of G major and the E minor. Okay, the harmonic minor. And melodic. And then the accompaniment for in E minor is E minor, A minor, and B7. So now if you're into songwriting, like I like writing songs, so I could take those 6 chords. So in G major, G, C, D, E, or E7, and then E minor, A minor, B7. Now I can create like a verse and chorus and have contrasting feelings. So I might start by writing a song and have the beginning part be G, and then if I switch the mood during the bridge, maybe something like that, so you get different feels. So anyway, it's a little aside, but it's the kind of thing that I've done ever since I first started learning. I would take those things and I would take a chord progression or something and write a song to it, you know, make up some rhymes and try to put the words to music. And that to me is very fun, and it's a big part of why I still play music to this day. So accompaniment styles in E minor, starting in 4/4 or common time. Two, four. Then we have some arpeggios. These are kind of cool. So this first one is going to be thumb, index, middle, ring. So I'm playing my thumb on the bass. Like I said before, my thumb is playing the bass strings, and then index, middle, ring is going to be on the 3 treble strings. So my index is playing string 3, middle is playing string 2, and ring is playing string 1. So it's going to sound like this. Variation on that. Okay, next page has dotted quarter note drills. I'm not going to get into much of this. If you've ever been a student of mine, you might remember what's for dinner. So what's. And then it goes on from there. Anyway, so that's how I teach. I use that phrase, what's for dinner, for dotted quarter note, eighth note rhythm. What's for dinner? Hamburger, French fry. Anyway, I'm not going to do all of those, but I'll just move on. Here's some cool right hand technique stuff. So now he's just got us holding down D, and I'm going to alternate my right hand, these two fingers, index and middle finger. But while I'm doing that, in between I'm going to be playing bass notes with my thumb. So it's going to sound like this. Or like this. I'm going to switch to my third finger for this one, and same kind of deal. And one more. Kind of interesting, mixes things up a little bit. The Foggy Do is next, so I'm going to just kind of visualize through this. Watch out for any tricky rhythms. He's starting to incorporate more. The counterpoint is kind of still there, but it's also got some rhythmic variations that make it a little more interesting, like eighth notes and quarter notes being combined in the two voices. So I kind of think of these voices like bass and tenor. If you're a singer, you might be familiar with those terms. Bass is the lower voice, tenor is the kind of mid-range voice, and then you have altos and sopranos, the girls' voices up on top. Okay, so let's see what happens. Tricky one. Moving on. About 4 more pages, I guess. Here's a waltz by Soar. Just gonna look through. This is in 3. A waltz is typically a 3/4 time kind of thing. So he's obviously using. He's at the part of the book where he's incorporating more E minor. He does kind of venture into E major a little bit. So E minor sounds like that. It's kind of a sad sounding chord. Minor chords tend to be, and then major, he switches it up just to give like a different feel in the beginning. So we're gonna give this one a shot. Okay, so then we have another Mertz piece. Again, gonna kind of look through, incorporating some chords from C major this time. Oh, and a C sharp. So this will be kind of an interesting challenge. I can kind of hear the tune there a little bit as I'm playing it. I remember this one, but kind of a pretty little melody. Okay, so let's see what happens. Okay, page 47. This is A Night in Madrid. There's no author written, like usually on the right hand side it tells you who wrote it. It doesn't say, so I have no idea who wrote this. Maybe it's probably a Mel Bay original. So it's in 3/4 time, which means it's at waltz time. It's in E minor, just looking through some counterpoint. Doesn't look terribly difficult, but sometimes those are the ones that get ya. So it's not too bad. There's a little G sharp there at one point. 2 points. Okay. So E minor, A Night in Madrid, 3/4 time. Okay, a song by Aguado. I think Aguado is a contemporary of Fernando Sor, late classical, early romantic era composer. Just looking it over here. Kind of, it's in G major, but he's got some chromaticism here, so he's visiting kind of neighboring. If you understand the cycle of fifths, there's like C major, G major, and D major are next to each other, and those happen to be the primary chords in the key of C2. So he's kind of like borrowing notes from those different key signatures. So here is a song by Aguado in 4/4 time. Alright, last page. We have a waltz in E minor and then another piece by Aguado called Conchita. So here, now, so instead of using, he's still using the counterpoint, but sometimes he's starting to incorporate in like a more modern approach, or old, maybe older approach of playing actual chords. But there it's still counterpoint. Again, there's no author there, that's probably a Mel Bay original, but this one does say Aguado. So, got some accidentals here. This is the kind of thing like where I like to work out fingerings. I will mention this too before I go any further. Sometimes you can play a C here, which is the second string, first fret. Sometimes you can play it up here, it's the same note. But sometimes it's, depending on your fingering and where you are on, when you're playing like these counterpoint kind of things, sometimes it's easier to play it up on the third string. So sometimes you might see me venture up there for that note. So again, C on the first fret and on the fifth fret. This is string 2 and this is string 3. They sound similar. I mean, it's the same note, but they do have a different tone because the thicker string higher up on the neck. Let's give it a little, slightly different tone. It's a little brighter when you're classical than that. Okay, anyway, Conchita. And that's the end of Mel Bay Classic Guitar Method Book 1. Now, in a previous live stream, in this book, there was a piece called Andante, and it was by Fernando Cerulli, and it was an excerpt from it. It was only one page. So just to finish things up, I have the actual composition, the full composition. This is from the Royal Conservatory repertoire series. I started to use these in college. This is book 2, so it's not terribly complicated. It's a little bit more challenging. It's where I'm going to be heading next in the Mel Bay Classic Guitar Method. Next time I'm going to do volume 2. I'm going to start that. But this is actually from book 1 of the Mel Bay, but it's volume 2 in the Royal Conservatory, and it's the full version. So I thought it'd be fun to play this too. And that's it for today. Thanks for tuning in.